Hi guys. So today I wanted to go back in time and look at how they used to diagnose and treat epilepsy way back in the early days before they knew anything about it or its origins or what caused it. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so I did as much research as I could. There's some amazing books, articles about it. I'll link what I could find in the description down below. But this is just going to be an overall, what I found fascinating, interesting. If you want more in depth, you can go into those links I put down below. So what I went into was about 3,000 years ago. So around 1067 BC. So back then, obviously they couldn't diagnose, figure out what was going on with epileptics. They called it the falling sickness, which obviously epileptic would fall to the ground, convulse. And back then, obviously, everything was very spiritual. They believed in demons, gods, and they believed that was the devil or a demon trying to pull them down into hell, which I could understand because it definitely wasn't pulling them up. So that was their thinking. It was the falling sickness. They were falling down into hell. And it was possibly because of a wrongdoing or an evil doing that person had done, or possibly a member of their family had done, which is just a horrible thing, because if you knew that you hadn't done anything, and also as an epileptic, if you are one, you have no memory of a tonic, clonic, or grand mal has happened, and you just wake up with a broken nose, you have to believe that somebody didn't do that to you, that they didn't come from behind and beat you up. No, you broke your own nose. You fell down and you fell into this thing. And just try to imagine how confusing and otherworldly that would be. That, we believe the devil tried to pull you into hell, but back in those times, you had no other option but to believe that and feel that you were cursed or something. But yeah, so back then it was actually surprising that they knew enough to figure out that there was 4 different kinds that they could diagnose or tell that they could document. The 4 different kinds of seizures that they chronicled were generalized, nocturnal, laughing, and chronic convulsion. So they had 40 different stone tablets that they've found so far. And I think one or a few of them are on display in a museum in London. But basically it says that these 4 different types of seizures are attributed to different types of demons/gods. And then there's the postictal phase, which they also recognized. So these were the Babylonians, and they believed that the demons and ghosts would possess a person temporarily to cause them to have these seizures or fits, as they called them back then. So the main demon that they believed was called Lilu, and then there was his slave girl, Lily, and his wife, Lily too, and they would possess people and cause them to have seizures. So they said that if a person laughs loudly while their limbs are flexed and extended, that is the work of Lilu, the demon, the male demon, possessing them temporarily. Now, a curious feature of this family is that they were childless. Remember, Lily was their slave girl. So they had a natural interest in children, which is why they figured there was a lot of childhood epilepsy. Now, the nocturnal or seizures that happen in your sleep, particularly the ones that cause dizziness, deafness, abdominal dissension, hissing in the ears, were definitely the works of a ghost. And they said if you had multiple seizures in a day, it was the work of a murdering ghost, a ghost that murdered people, and the epileptic would surely die. Now, they weren't really sure how to treat these seizures or fits back in these days, obviously. They hadn't yet figured out that this was a causation of natural causes, your brain having an issue. They still thought it was supernatural or demonic possession. So they would call in priests or healers to try and do prayers, exorcism, healing ointments, treatments, whatever they thought would work could work. Throughout history, a lot of belief was that the moon or the priestess of the moon would have an effect on an epileptic. And, for a while, people thought it was because of the phases of the moon. Maybe that's how they attributed it. But it was, in actuality, the luminosity of the moon that was probably how it had an effect. And that's because on full moons, it was brighter. And keep in mind, back then, they didn't have electricity or anything like that. So at night, they wouldn't be able to sleep as much because it's a full bright moon. So sleep deprivation is a trigger. Bright lights is a trigger for some epileptics. So, full moons could cause a seizure, and so they might attribute that to the moon. So, I could see how that would make sense back then. So yeah, lots of times they would think it had something to do with the moon. And then as we go further into the future of those times, back closer to 500 to 400 BC, into the Greek era, they got to figure out a little bit more that it was the body causing these issues. I'm going to mess up some of these names. I know I am. Alexandros of Trallius. His suggested treatment was to wash the head of the epileptic and have them smell the horn of a ram. Now, a ram is a goat. There's a special breed, some of you may have heard of the fainting goats. And that's the goats that when they are scared or afraid or near a predator, all their muscles will stiffen and they'll just fall over as their defense mechanism. And they had those, and they thought they had the same disease, epileptics. So they thought if a person smelled their horn and fell over, same thing, they're an epileptic. And that was their way to diagnose. Clearly not a way, but a smart way back then to try and think, hey, maybe this will work. At least they were trying. They were trying to figure out a way. They were trying to help these people. So again, fainting goats. Yet another way that didn't quite work, but they were trying. And I'm definitely wanting to do more of these videos and get further and further into it, because there is a lot more information as we go further through the ages, and they've figured out a lot more about what's causing this disease, better ways to treat it, but there is still a long way to go. They don't know how to cure it yet. Obviously, they're still trying to figure out a lot of things, what causes some of it, what all the triggers are. So still got a long ways to go. So it is interesting to see all the things that they've tried and what has and hasn't worked. So yeah, this is just the beginning. This is just, I've dipped my toe in the water to see how it all started, what they tried to figure out in the beginning. So let me know if you'd like to hear more. If I've missed anything, I'm sure I have, but some interesting facts you might have known from back in this era. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else you'd like to hear about. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.